Petruchio of Verona emerges as one of the most provocative and enigmatic figures in the Taming of the Shrew. As the bold, unconventional suitor who sets out to tame Katherine Minola, he functions as the instigator of the play's central conflict, the embodiment of patriarchal authority, and a complex figure whose motives and morality have sparked centuries of controversy. While he may appear at first as a brash fortune-seeker, Petruchio's character resists simple classification. His wit, psychological cunning, theatrical style, and ambiguous evolution create a challenging portrait of masculinity in Shakespearean comedy. Role in the narrative. Petruchio enters the play with an unmistakable purpose. He will marry for wealth. His first lines make his ambition unapologetically clear. He comes to Padua to wive it wealthily. This blunt motivation drives the plot forward, for without Petruchio, there would be no suitor bold enough to pursue Katherine, whose reputation as a shrew has frightened off all potential husbands. Thus, Petruchio's arrival sets in motion the marriage plot that the rest of the characters, including Baptista, Hortensio, and Gremio, desperately need to resolve. The play's dramatic tension hinges on Petruchio's interactions with Katherine. Their courtship scenes are a whirlwind of verbal sparring, psychological maneuvering, and theatrical posturing. Petruchio's strategy to contradict Kate at every turn, to shower her with paradoxical praise, and to seize control of their narrative, fuels the comedic energy of the central acts. After their marriage, the subplot shifts from pursuit to taming, and Petruchio assumes the role of domestic ringmaster, using sleep deprivation, food withholding, and chaotic behavior to break Kate's resistance and reshape her behavior. Petruchio's success resolves the central conflict and leads to the final banquet scene, where Kate's obedient speech serves as the thematic climax. Petruchio's presence shapes the play's structure. He creates the challenge, enacts the solution, and frames the conclusion. Without him, the plot cannot move, the comedic machinery cannot operate, and the central ideological tension cannot unfold. Symbolic significance. Above all, Petruchio embodies patriarchal authority. His methods, control, discipline, and strategic deprivation, mirror the mechanisms through which Renaissance society regulated female behavior. Shakespeare uses Petruchio not simply as an individual character but as a symbolic representative of a social system where a husband wielded absolute power over his wife. Petruchio's taming techniques echo contemporary manuals of conduct and analogies from animal training. This symbolic parallel invites audiences to view him as the personification of institutionalized power, not merely an eccentric man but a cultural force enforcing gender norms. On another symbolic level, Petruchio resembles the trickster figure. He manipulates events, bends reality through words, and uses theatrical performance to reshape the world around him. His exaggerated behaviors, arriving late to his wedding wearing absurd clothing, contradicting obvious truths, suggest not only dominance but artistry. Petruchio's taming can be interpreted as a radical form of theatrical improvisation that uses chaos to expose the fragility of social norms. Petruchio also symbolizes the excesses of male bravado. His confidence borders on arrogance. His commitment to domination borders on obsession. Some interpretations read him as a satire of hypermasculinity, revealing the absurdity of a man who believes he can bend reality to his will. When Petruchio insists that the sun is the moon, he not only manipulates Katherine but tests the limits of patriarchal language itself. Shakespeare may thus be using Petruchio symbolically to critique the very system he outwardly represents. Broader implications. Petruchio's treatment of Katherine reveals Renaissance assumptions about marriage, authority, and the subordination of women. His behavior, while comedic in its original context, forces modern audiences to confront the historical realities of patriarchal power. The ambivalence in Shakespeare's portrayal suggests he may be inviting viewers to question these norms rather than passively accept them. Petruchio frames marriage as a dynamic performance rather than a fixed institution. His insistence that Kate agree with his illusions highlights how social roles are produced through language and compliance. Their relationship becomes a stage on which identity is negotiated. While Petruchio appears dominant, Kate's eventual strategic compliance hints that power may be more fluid than it seems. If Kate chooses to perform obedience, Petruchio's triumph becomes uncertain. This complicates assumptions about domination, suggesting that the social order relies on mutual compliance rather than brute force alone. Petruchio forces audiences to grapple with the tension between comedy and morality. His antics align with the traditions of farce and slapstick, but his methods raise ethical concerns about emotional manipulation and coercion. The character, therefore, becomes a bridge through which modern audiences examine how humor intersects with violence and gender inequality. Conclusion. Petruchio stands as one of Shakespeare's most provocative creations. This man embodies patriarchal authority yet moves with the agility of a trickster, who wields psychological influence with theatrical flair, and who both reinforces and challenges gender norms. His role in the narrative is essential, driving the plot from courtship to marriage to the ideological climax. Symbolically, he represents societal structures, comic archetypes, and the contradictions of masculinity. His complexity invites interpretations ranging from villain to visionary, oppressor to partner. Ultimately, Petruchio's character forces us to confront the uncomfortable interplay of power, performance, and identity. This interplay remains deeply relevant to contemporary discussions about relationships, autonomy, and the nature of social conformity.